learning how to communicate more effectively in life and business is really key to success. How many times has something fallen apart because of lack of communication or poor communication? It's like one of the most essential life skills, and yet we're usually not taught it and how to communicate more effectively. And so our communication style is simply adopted by what we saw as kids, what we navigated in our environment. And even though we know that communication is key to success, we really haven't spent too much time developing that skill. And so today I want to give you a few tips to really develop your communication style so that you can deepen connection and really move your relationships forward. If that's professionally, if that's personally, so many times it all comes back to communication. We also know that communication isn't just a one-way street, right? Communication happens between multiple people. And so sometimes this is when you're communicating with somebody, but it's also how do you be more present with other people in your life so that they feel heard, that they feel understood. The first thing with communication that happens before we ever get in front of another person is setting an intention. If you're about to go into maybe a hard conversation, maybe into a meeting, going into a conversation in a personal relationship, setting the intention and starting with your intention and your purpose. Why am I having this conversation? What's the purpose of it? What's my intention? So many times we're just in these conversations and we're reacting and we're responding in the moment, and the intention gets lost. And usually our intention is to deepen connection. It's to really clearly convey a message or to be understood. And so starting with intention, it doesn't have to take a long time, but I'm having this conversation or I'm communicating this for the purpose of deepening my relationships, to get something accomplished in a short period of time. That's something that you can do, has nothing to do with the other person, but what that does is it sets your mind right, and how you'll show up in that conversation will be very different because you know what your intention is. Something that feels like we shouldn't have to say, but it's so true, is how can you be more present in your conversations? We live in such a fast-paced society. We have so many distractions around us. We think that we're all brilliant multitaskers. And if we're trying to multitask, if we're distracted, the truth is we are not fully present with the person that we're with. If you're on the phone, but you're trying to do something else, or if you're having a conversation with somebody, but yet you're distracted by reading something or looking out the window, you might feel like you're fully present, but the other person probably isn't feeling that from you. And your energy says so much more than your words. If you're going into conversations and your intention is to deepen connection and to develop that relationship, how can you be even more present? So is your mind fully there? Are you making eye contact? Are you squared up with that person? If you're on the phone, have you paused and really are you being present with them? So that's something that you can do to really create more effective communication, is just to be more present. Turn off the distractions. I don't know if you've ever tried to have a conversation with somebody who's looking at their phone. You feel like you're speaking to a wall. You do not feel heard. You're not building deeper connection, right? That creates more dissonance and more separation. Being present, setting your intention, just those two things alone, you're going to notice a huge difference in your relationships. Body language is also really key. When our arms are crossed, when our legs are crossed, it's this closed off energy. And when we're wanting to develop and deepen relationships, it's really about being more open. It's about being more available. It's about being more vulnerable or authentic. Are you slouched? Are you kind of like closed off? Or are you leaning in? Are you sitting up straight or standing up? Are you squared off to that person? Are you open arms, open heart? Start to pay attention of your own habits of your stance. Do you tend to go into a closed off stance? And what would it look like just to open yourself up? And it might feel really, really slight, but it's powerful and it's impactful, and people will really feel that greater connection. As a listener, and when we're in communication, how you're listening and how you're showing up for the other person is so key. And you might have heard the expression that, are you listening to respond or are you listening for understanding? And it is so easy for our minds to be telling stories while we're listening, and we're preparing our response, we're telling our own stories, we're going off on tangents. And in those moments, we're not really listening to deepen connection. We're listening for ourselves and our own rebuttal and our own response. It takes practice to really be in authentic listening, to really sit and hear somebody and hear what they're saying. And that goes back to being fully present and not listening to respond. So what would it look like to really hear the other person? And I'm sure you can think of times where you are talking to somebody and they said they heard you, but you do not feel heard and you do not feel understood. And so if you want to be more understood in your relationship, start by being more understanding and really listening deeply and more authentically. One of the ways that you can practice that is by simply repeating back, okay, here's what I heard you say, or asking questions. Tell me more. What did you mean by that? And communicating with curiosity is really key. This little word, is so powerful in communication and relationship. Tell me more, help me understand. And that's going to show to the other person that you genuinely are present with them. They're going to feel more understood. They're going to feel heard. And if you're really hearing them, it's going to change your response because you're in your mind and in your thoughts differently. One of the other keys in communicating effectively is when you're in conversation, there's going to be things that people say that are going to trigger you, where maybe you get defensive, maybe you feel misunderstood, maybe where you feel hurt. In those moments, we have patterns. Do we shut down? Do we get defensive? Do we argue? You have patterns about how you show up in relationship and as you communicate. And as you can start to identify your own patterns, you can ask yourself, is this pattern serving me? Is this pattern creating greater connection? Or is it time to do something different? So our ability to notice our own patterns in communication and what that looks like, sometimes we assume the worst. Sometimes we're telling our own stories. Sometimes we feel like we're being insulted when maybe we're not. But paying attention to what's going on inside of you. And one of the questions that you can ask yourself in those moments is, what is this triggering in me? A powerful tool is to assume positive intention. Again, back to asking more questions, back to challenging your own thoughts for the purpose of creating deeper relationships, which is ultimately what we all want. If that's personal or that's professional, we need relationships in our life. And one of the keys to great relationships is really great communication. Learning to communicate in life and in business is a key to your success. So take these keys, take these tips and start practicing them. And when we're learning any skill, it can feel a little clunky at first. It might feel a little bit foreign, but what's on the other side of clear communication is so worth it personally and professionally. So I would love to hear from you. Maybe you've got some other communication tips that could be helpful for this community. Comment those below. I'm Stacey Berger, and here is to you living a life that you love.